You're listening to the Real Returns podcast, where we learn how real investments can make a real impact. Join your hosts, Andrew and Dan, as they share stories and interview business leaders on how real estate and other forms of investment can create meaningful change for individuals and communities around the world.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Real Returns podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Reichert, and I'm joined with my co-host, Dan Croce. Dan, the funny man.
I'm great.
How are we doing over there?
I am fine and dandy. I'm excited today that we actually get to interview someone from Pittsburgh. We don't often get to do that, which is, that's our hometown. So I thought I'd kick us off with a couple Pittsburgh funnies today. So how can you identify when someone in Pittsburgh is driving under the influence? They're the only ones that are not swerving to miss the potholes.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I thought I was going to have the word yins in there.
What does Pittsburgh have in common with Peter Pan? You're not going to get it, so I'm just going to tell you. The pirates always lose.
They had a good start here at the beginning of the year. I don't know what happened.
Doing well. Excited to have Justin Escajeda on the show today. It's my pleasure to introduce today our guest, Justin Escajeda. Justin is the owner and president of Escajeda Holdings, which is a really interesting company and one that we've actually had the opportunity to do some work with. They specialize in identifying and acquiring holding construction companies that work in various elements of building, restoration, and maintenance. He started his own masonry company, but has acquired roofing business, remodeling business, concrete business. So pretty impressive suite of holdings all around the construction space. So Justin has extensive experience in the real estate space from a vendor and construction standpoint, and we are excited to have him on the show today. So Justin, thank you for coming on. Why don't you take a minute and tell our audience a little bit about how you got in the business and introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would have to say when I got, of age, 18, 19, I started getting into the trades a little bit. And, that carried on through college. But after college, I did start getting into real estate investing as well. I started to buy duplexes, single families, that had kind of graduated into multi-units, half commercial, half residential buildings, very, very, very common in Pittsburgh, the storefronts down below, and then maybe 2 or 3 apartments up top. I got into storage facilities, mobile home investing, park investing. But the whole time I was doing that, I was always still working in construction, more specifically masonry, brick, block, stone, restoration. And, I started my company about 10 years ago, a masonry company, and it really took off. And the last few years, we started to acquire local construction companies that we felt that, that we either had worked with before or that we thought were good companies that did quality work, had good employees, good service, good finished product. There's been a lot of opportunities over the years, but, the ones that we did go through and the acquisition process, we were very happy with, and they continued to produce today, So, I know this is a podcast that talks a lot about real estate. I should say that, I kind of got burned out a little bit, maybe about 5-6 years ago with, I think I had up to about 32, 33 units, and I was managing them all myself while working construction, you know what I mean? And, at the time, a few young children, so it was, I just got burned out, and I got burned out from the monotony and the backs and for the roller coaster of emotions that come with buy and hold investing, being a landlord, so to speak. So I started. What I was getting at was like I sold them all off. They're all gone at this point. So
Yeah, totally get that. We were just talking with our last guest about sort of the dichotomy of needing to be a landlord, dealing with the tenants in the toilets versus more the passive investing and being able to be more of like a business owner, more of an investor. I think it's fascinating that you found yourself in this place where you're buying businesses. I feel like that probably feels foreign to a lot of people, certainly a lot of our listeners. So can you just talk me through a little bit? How do you go about identifying a business? How do you underwrite that business? How do you buy a business? What does that look like for you?
All I could do is describe my process. If you asked Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, they have probably a much different process. But I've listened to a lot of their stuff and read a lot of their stuff, and I have kind of adopted a lot of the same things that a lot of time it's towards the end of it, after you start looking into a deal and into a company and looking over the 3 to 5 years of financials and start investigating them, like, does it feel right too? That's a big part to me too. Like, does this feel right? Obviously financials are a huge part of what I look at, and it can make a very easy decision sometimes. Other times too, though, we are looking for companies that fit with our other companies, that we can pass leads on to, or we can subcontract one another, so a lot of the times I can overlook some negative financial aspects, knowing that, like, okay, maybe this company had X in subcontractors, and they only have this much. Well, I know that I'm going to eat up how much of that subcontractor fee into one of my other companies. So it makes it a little bit easier, a little bit less risky too, for me. It's not as if it would be a lot more risky for me to just go out and start a McDonald's franchise. I think I'd be a lot more exposed than I would be buying a construction company that fit well with the rest of ours.
Yeah, no, it makes a ton of sense. I love the strategy. Can you talk a little bit about that fit? Like, it sounds like you're looking for synergies among your various businesses. Are they operating with different aspects of maybe the construction process? Are they different trades? Like, what is the fit that you're looking for?
The big thing that I'm concerned about is exterior building envelope maintenance and restoration, whether that be historical restoration, general maintenance, changing lintels, caulking windows, weatherproofing the side of a building, roofing, some of the basic stuff. Anything that kind of relates to that, I'm interested in. It's the more specialized, maybe like mechanical or interior trades that I'm not as, I guess, enthused about. Plumbing or electric and believe me, I know those are extremely lucrative trades and businesses. People, I think plumbers and electricians, they're worth every dime that you pay them, but they are expensive. I know they are. But at the same time too, I don't quite understand them, and a lot of the times too, the trades don't intersect. I'm very involved, very interested in painting. We do a lot of exterior painting with our remodeling company. There's a gray area where painting and masonry kind of overlap at times, or concrete as well. And the same thing with the roofing. If we're fixing a parapet on a building, 99% of the time, the roofing aspect of that parapet needs adjusted to and corrected. So they play into each other well.
Yeah, and it sounds like you have a real passion and focus on the building envelope. So kind of protecting the building from, exterior weather and storms and stuff like that. Have you had any experiences where buildings have dealt with water damage, things where you can kind of come in and help provide a service to right the asset and, kind of protect the asset?
Oh yeah, sure. And I constantly give credit to building owners that call us in the preventative stage as opposed to it's already a major problem stage. You know, when people call us like, hey, we want to get, you know, this side of the building, all the windows caulked and sealed before the winter time, and you look at it and it's not too bad, but it could use it, you know. But what that does is it protects your asset, you know, for the years to come. And here's the problem: if you let a problem on the exterior of your building, especially in Pittsburgh the last few years with the bridges and that piece of stone that fell on Grant Street, you know, I mean, people are starting to wake up and take a look at those things, because when it gets too late, number one, especially if you go to, and that's the biggest thing too. Whenever real estate investors, you know, sometimes they buy these big, massive buildings, and then you give them a price to go up 100 feet, and they're like, oh, you know, I can't believe you can't afford that. Like, well, how much do you think it's going to cost to go up there safely and correctly do the work? You know, like, I mean, it's something that needs to be looked into. Same thing with houses. You know, these big Victorian houses that people love to flip, and they need a 50-foot chimney fixed over 3 or 4 gables. You know, you got $10,000 in scaffolding just right there, just to get up to it before the work even starts. You know, and it's stuff that people don't look into. You know, so I think that whenever we do try, especially with our property management companies we work with, we do try to do inspections for them. We do try to work with their budget. You know, let's work on the things that needed done the most this year. You know, next year we could work with your budget on secondary items. You know, so
Justin, I'm curious, when you have purchased businesses, is that more of has it just kind of come to you, or have you said, we definitely want to buy a roofing company? And then is there a broker involved, or is it a relationship that you had, or just how does the sort of deal come together?
Every scenario you listed has happened. I've thought that I wanted to buy something and went out and sought it. There's been a lot of things that fall into our lap. You know, a lot of opportunities that you know, baby boomers are starting to you know, exit the workforce. You know, with very little thought over the last 40 years of what their succession planning is going to be. You know, and here's the problem with that is, you know, as much as I may like a certain company and the work they produce, if that company is solely based around an owner that is involved in every decision on every job every single day, 365 days a year, well, how much? I'm not really buying a business all that much, because I'm going to have to put a lot of work in to get some management in there, which I've done, you know, a couple of times, and it's no easy task. You know what I mean? You know, there was, and here's just a difference. You know, we bought a remodeling company and last year, and it was a pretty big company, and he had good management in there, so it wasn't too difficult to you know, the guy who's running it now is a good friend of mine. He's doing an excellent job. He's, you know, I can't say anything better about it, but you know, I mean, there was already some management there, so you know, it's a little bit, that's a lot more valuable than if you know, we're looking at a company that's like, hey, I've got 10 guys, but I run them every single day and I make every single decision. You know what I mean? And brokers, it's back and forth. You know, brokers, there's business brokers out there. I've met good ones. I've met sleazy ones that just want their 15%. That, you know, they'll lock a poor seller into a deal and they won't do any of the work whatsoever. But I feel like me and my attorney are doing their work, you know, but then there's other ones that are very proactive and very professional, you know, so you get a mix just like in any other line of work.
Yeah, that makes sense. You had mentioned that when you're looking at an acquisition target, you want to make sure that it's not solely concentrated on like one particular owner. What are some other factors that you're looking into? Like, are you looking at the culture of that company? I mean, obviously you're looking at the financials, but I guess what are some of the softer factors that you're looking into?
Definitely culture, you know, finished product, you know, I mean, simple Google reviews of the company, how long they've been in business. Hey, and just what I've heard about them over the years, if they're local, you know what I mean? Like you hear, but there's good companies and there's bad companies. You've been somewhere as long as I have, so you kind of have a gut check there. I'd also say, I mean, the ages of the workforce too is something that should be considered, in my opinion. If 95% of the people are over 65 years old, they may be great, but at the same time too, you may be out of a workforce with if you're financing it with a giant loan with nothing to do the work, in a couple of years. So it's something to be thought about. People like to retire at 65 or so, and I don't blame them, especially in construction, man. It beats on your body, like it's, I mean, I think there's a lot of guys that work construction that are in their 60s that, I mean, they look like they're in their 40s because of the physical part of it too. You know what I mean? They take care of themselves, and it's being out there moving your body every single day rather than being stationary.
Yeah, love that. So, Justin, what do you think are some of the unique challenges? You mentioned, Pittsburgh and the impact to real estate. What are some of the challenges that you face that maybe someone at a masonry company in Austin, Texas might not face?
Freeze and thaw cycle. I don't know how much restoration work is done in the southern hemisphere of the out west or down south, because we're in the Northeast. Freeze and thaw of water has literally made my business. It creates cracks, it creates spalls, and creates major problems in exterior of the buildings. They use different products down there. Down south is real big on block and stucco, terracotta tile roofs. That's everywhere down there, down Florida and everything. A good insulator. I don't know. I stick to what I know in the areas that I know. Maybe that'll be different one day, but right now that's really all I do.
Justin, I'm curious about the transition process, Justin. When you transition from a company that you acquire to like integrate them into your company, what does that look like? Do you have to like transition, technology systems? Do you have to make any people changes? Or are you letting them operate pretty independently? What does it look like?
No, we try to keep them as independently as possible, other than internally subcontracting each other and trading leads, because here's the thing. If I'm going to spend millions of dollars on a company, why would I go in and change a ton of stuff? I'll just start one from the ground up and save a lot of money. You know what I mean? And now here's the thing too. You got to consider the workforce. In the construction industry, it's not like banking or IT world, or the more corporate world, where like companies are bought and merged a lot more frequently. A new owner to a guy working in a construction company for 20 years might be a scary thought. So a big important thing for me is to make sure that current workforce knows that, like, hey, I like the company the way it is. That's why I want to buy it. If I didn't like the company the way it is, I wouldn't buy it. So I'm not going to change anything. There might be small tweaks here and there, but like any major processes, no way. Like, what's the point? You know what I mean? I just keep searching for something else that I don't need to change and spend a lot less energy,
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. And do you feel like you're still able to achieve the synergies that you want to achieve? Like you've got two disparate companies then, but you mentioned about how they can complement each other. Like, how are you able to achieve those synergies if you're keeping them independent?
Well, you start with management. Make sure that management is, cognizant of the, we're all under one roof here, so to speak, on umbrella. We got to try to work with each other. Now, that's not to say there hasn't been issues. Hey, Sometimes bricklayers fight with carpenters. Sometimes roofers fight with the cement guy. It just is job site stuff, regardless if we're under the same, the same umbrella. Things happen. You just kind of got to work. That's the day-to-day stuff, and that's the importance of having great management. And guys you trust. They can work through those issues and try to avoid them from happening in the first place. But hey, it's no company's perfect. Shit's always going to happen, So I learn from the mistakes for the past. Don't keep making the same ones,
Yeah, for sure. Ain't that the truth? Can you talk a little bit about the benefit to the customers of you having these companies that are integrated? We like to talk about impact, in our podcast. Just wondering how you think of the impact to the customer of you having invested in companies that can be synergistic.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like, what is that? Earl Nightingale always says the customer is the real boss, right? And the only way you're going to grow and succeed is increasing your service to them, right? So if somebody has a leaky roof, okay, water's dumping in, it's getting through their masonry, it's getting through their flashing, it's getting through bad tile. So they got a bad chimney, they got bad flashing, they got a bad roof, right? Water's getting into the house. It's not just going to stop at the attic. It's going to go down. Maybe it's going to destroy some flooring. It's going to swell paint. It's going to destroy drywall. Who knows what else, right? The good part about that is I just listed like 6 different trades that a customer is going to have to call, right? They just need to call one of my companies and they're going to refer everybody without them even calling another company. The painters will be over, the drywalls will be over. You're going to get one price for everything, obviously itemized. The flooring will be redone. We'll fix your brickwork. We'll fix your roofing. We'll fix your flashing, bend new metal, all your caulking work. And that is just one phone call the customer makes. Now, from a residential side and for commercial too, from years of talking to our customers, the biggest problem they have is people just answering the phone and showing up to give them a price. They can't even get a price, and that is just all too common, right? So a lot of the times, and don't get me wrong, we have to make money, obviously, and we pay, above union rates, but at the same time too, we have to, we don't want to gouge anybody or leverage anybody either, like, oh, they really need us, so we're gonna nail them on this or whatever, that's just bad karma. But at the same time too, like, how many hours did that save the customer? If they just needed to make one phone call and all they have to do is review and okay the price, and if the price isn't okay, how can we work it out? At least they're not going through the phone book, going through Google, waiting on this guy to come at 4, this guy to come at 2 tomorrow, He doesn't show up. He doesn't have a call, Time, and a lot of time saved.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. It sounds like the real impact to the customer is, it saves them time, it saves them frustration. You kind of have this one-stop shop where they can just go to one place to get all of those problems solved with, an area that touches multiple trades. That's really kind of your main benefit there.
Sure. Yeah. Now it works a little bit better with everybody, all the companies working together. In residential, commercial projects tend to be a little bit more high profile. So it's usually like, hey, the masons are working on this one, the roofers are working on this one, and it might just be too much. Or general contractors or certain commercial clients, they have people that they typically work with, so it's harder to get into certain markets with them,
Justin, what are some of the biggest challenges you face? What keeps you up at night or stresses you out in your business?
What stresses me out? Where do I begin?
Yeah. You don't seem very stressed.
No, I meditate a lot. How's that?
It's working.
Well, I think that, I don't come from a financial background. Everything that that I know from finance has all been learned the hard and expensive way through firsthand experience with my own money. I have taken an accounting class one time, actually last summer, to try to understand it better, and I barely passed with I think it was like a C minus. I barely passed. It was online. It was tough, But the thing that and like I said, I think most of my problems are self-imposed problems, I should say, but I think an accurate, constantly accurately identifying financials and the story that they tell, is because it's always changing. You know what I mean? It's always changing, always needs revisited. And, I project for this quarter, and I'll look at all the jobs for this company, and we'll be like, we'll be off, whether it be up or down. Like, I mean, I don't know if like, I don't know. It's tough. The financials are tough. I mean, we're very careful, and we look at them every single day, every aspect of it. Our productivity levels are, we're very good at bill pay. Our profit and loss statements are constantly being looked at, and but it's that would be, I guess, the one thing, and that maybe this can't even exist, but like I think about Lehman Brothers. Look what happened. Look what happened to them. They I mean, but then again too, they had inherently knew they were doing something. They had to have known they were doing something wrong. That the can was not going to be kicked any further down the road at one point in time. But like I guess making a financial mistake and continuing to make that mistake without knowing it would be the thing that I would be most afraid of. So I do a lot of reading on finances and different businesses and the financial aspect of them, and constantly monitor ours. I'm constantly talking to the presidents of the companies, and the accountant, of course, So,
what do you like to read when you're reading about finance? Where do you go?
Well, I do a lot of. I just read a really good book with, what the heck was his name? It was a CPA, and I almost didn't read the book because the front cover looks so like guru-ish, like, let me sell you this 10-minute house flipping course type. It was called Cash Flow and Grow. Even the title is like so like I don't know, but it was literally the best book I've ever read. Like it was by a CPA who was very business savvy, and I really, really got a lot out of it. I think his name was Tyler Broom. I think it is. I forget, but that was the latest one that I read. It was really, really good. Oh, the Intelligent Investor. That's another fantastic. Investing book, little dry at times, and it's like a Bible, but like I'm not a fast reader either. So I think it took me like 6 months to read The Intelligent Investor. Man, I'm very slow at reading. So
I love that, Justin, that commitment to learning. I think that, I mean, maybe it's just my impression, maybe it's an incorrect stereotype, but in the construction industry, I don't hear a lot of company leaders who show that kind of dedication to, honing that part of their craft. So kudos to you. I think that's really commendable. Oh.
No, I appreciate it. There's definitely some of my competitors that have been around a lot longer than I have. They have to be financially pretty savvy and pretty smart and doing the correct things for as long as they've been around and the size of the projects that they've done. I never really thought about it before till I was in business myself. But I guess that's probably some kind of defect of character of mine. Is it's just like I never feel like it's there's always more that I could look into. You know what I mean? Can we break it down even further? And I don't know. It's a mind battle. What are you gonna do?
I think it's a great quality. Justin, I have really enjoyed learning a little bit about the business. So why don't we pivot here? Well, actually, Andrew, is there anything else you wanted to cover content-wise with Justin before I start to head to the wrap-up?
No, I thought it was fascinating. Love learning about what you're doing in terms of investing in businesses, bringing them together, generating synergies that really benefit the customers. Really, really fascinating business model.
Well, it's not just benefiting the customers. The sellers, and that's another big part that I didn't mention too. I have a big, long discussion with the sellers ahead of time. In the very preliminary stages of an acquisition, like what is it that you want, and if both our needs can be met, then let's do it. Some guys, there's a couple guys that are still working now, and there's no sign of them quitting or retiring or whatever. And there's other guys that, hey, I'll do the transition, I'm out, whatever you want, and that's because you can't have that misunderstanding after closing, that's, that could be troublesome.
Yeah. Well, I love your approach. I mean, you take an approach where you're trying to figure out, how can I help this person solve a problem, right? Like, how can I help the seller solve a problem they're trying to solve? Or how can I help this customer solve this problem with their building? And, you're kind of doing that through the business model that you're employing. And I just really love how you take that other-centric approach. Makes a ton of sense.
Thanks.
Cool. So, Justin, we do what we like to call a lightning round here to start to close things out. So I'm going to ask you a few rapid-fire questions, more on the personal front, to give our audience a chance to get to know you a little bit. So first one, what is your biggest win? That can be personal or professional, but what comes to mind as your biggest win?
Biggest win? My kids, probably.
Okay.
I would have to say my kids. Yeah,
that's a great answer. Yeah, I would.
How old are your kids?
17, 14, and 8.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Your favorite movie?
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Okay. I haven't seen that one. I'll have to put it on my radar for the weekend.
Yeah, it's a good one. You'll like
favorite
it.
Food?
Tuna steaks, I think. Yeah, tuna.
I'm getting hungry now.
Do you go for ahi tuna?
Yeah.
Like ahi grade?
Yeah, like
the raw stuff.
The pink and the inside. Yeah, it's definitely my favorite food.
Nice. Do you like sushi too, or mostly just the ahi tuna?
No, I like sushi too. Yeah, I'll tell you what, my kids, they eat a lot of it. I don't know if you've seen the grocery stores now. They sell a lot of sushi now. Yeah, so my kids will eat that for dinner every night of the week if I buy it.
Yep. It's my kid's favorite food. Interestingly, raw fish. Who would have thought?
Right? Yeah.
What's a way that you're trying to grow and improve yourself these days?
I'm trying to do a lot more reading recently because, like I said, I procrastinate on reading. I've cut out television other than a half an hour at night before I go to bed. I exercise every single day. Go run every single day. No drinking, no gambling, no drugs. Try to be a centurion. We'll see.
Yeah. That's awesome. Good for you, man. I'm impressed. And we typically ask what's some content that you take in that you'd recommend. We've already gotten some recommendations from you with Cash Flow and Grow and Intelligent Investor, but anything else you'd throw out there? Any blogs or books or magazines, anything you read that...
You know what? There's this super good book I read. It's called Entrepreneurs versus the State. And it's all about the problems that come along with businesses receiving government subsidies. It talks a lot about James J. Hill and the railroad, the battles back then, Vanderbilt. The Scrantons are in it. They're talking about the history of the Scrantons. Yeah, I don't know. That was a good one. That one comes to mind.
Fascinating. Very cool.
You learn from the past.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Love that.
That's the truth.
Well, thank you, Justin. Before I hand off here to Andrew, how can our audience connect with you or get in touch with your company?
EscajedaMasonry.com, Three Rivers Roofing, Houlihan Roofing. Yeah.
Awesome.
Inks Installation, yeah. Any of those, you can get a hold of me.
Great.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thanks again, Justin, for being on the show. Really love your approach to buying businesses, thinking about how that benefits the seller, how that benefits the customer, bringing synergies among your various businesses. And I really just enjoyed hearing your story. I mean, it's cool to see what you've accomplished in a short period of time, and really respect and appreciate the work that you do. So thanks to our listeners for listening in. Thanks so much, Justin, for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Real Returns Podcast. We hope that you learned something new about how you can invest to make a lasting impact on those around you. Please be sure to subscribe to our show wherever you listen to your podcasts, leave us a review, and share about us on social media. We hope you will join us for our next episode, where we will be continuing the conversation around impactful real estate investing.